Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here or watching later from home to meet the candidates running for Issaquah City Council. I'm Lindsay Pinkston, Executive Director of Highlands Council. As we are approaching Halloween, before I introduce our moderator for the evening, I wanted to take this opportunity to invite you to a few events here at Blakely Hall. This Saturday from noon to 2 is Treats and Tales, which is a great indoor trick-or-treating option for families with kids or pets, or anyone who just likes to see dogs in costumes. Next Friday, the 27th, is our Night of Revelations, inspired by the fabulous art that you currently see in the gallery. At this adults-only event, you'll be able to meet the artist, be entertained by a magician, experience a tarot card reading, make a magic potion, and enjoy spooky drinks. And finally, next Saturday, the 28th, our Youth Advisory Board is hosting their annual middle school Halloween party. So lots of fun happening here. Hope to see you again. But moving on, I want to give a special thanks to the candidates for being here tonight, to the City of Issaquah and Tim Smith for sound support and recording the forum, which will be posted on the city's YouTube channel, Chelsea Music, our timekeeper, and Nina Milligan, our moderator. Nina Milligan is a longtime resident of Issaquah, dedicated to both community and the environment. She has previously served on the Issaquah City Council, as well as numerous commissions and committees, including the Urban Village Development Commission, the Issaquah Wayfinding Steering Committee, and the Transportation Advisory Board, which she chaired. She currently serves on the Issaquah Planning Policy Commission, where she provides guidance on planning for Issaquah's future growth through the city's comprehensive land use plan. I know Nina as a neighbor, a volunteer, an environmental steward, a former Highlands Council communications manager, and a friend, and I'm happy to introduce her tonight in her role as forum moderator. Nina's role as moderator involved receiving questions from the community, reviewing the 2023 Issaquah Highlands Community Survey to understand topics important to you, and developing questions for the candidates with context for the audience. We are fortunate to have Nina's experience and dedication to the community here. Please help me welcome Nina.
Thank you, Lindsay. Treating me right with that beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank her and Highlands Council for putting on the candidate forum tonight. I'm proud to be an Issaquah Highlands resident and being part of our mission to have lifelong learning and civic engagement. It's really a wonderfully rewarding part of being a member of this community. I want to tell you all that I wrote all tonight's questions, gathering input from the community, as Lindsay said, and keeping them all strictly confidential until you hear them tonight. Except for my husband, he did help. He can be trusted. I rotate the order of answering, so all candidates get the chance to answer first and to answer last. However, I have sequenced them in such a way that the candidates who are running against each other in a position will be answering the same exact question. They each get only 1 minute to answer each question. So it's going to be a little challenging, and I think they're up for it. Lindsay, our timekeeper, will be keeping track of the time, and she has a visual device to remind them as their time runs out. I'm going to tell the whole audience they will absolutely know when time is up, so you won't mind if I interrupt them if they go over time, because I will. There will be no rebuttals tonight. We call this a candidate forum on purpose. It's not a debate. So make sure, candidates, that you don't call out another individual on the dais in your responses. I have several categories of questions for you tonight. They include crime and safety, budget, environment, decision-making, future Issaquah, and human services. And that is the order we will be going through them. I'm going to ask the audience to hold their applause until the very end. We will have a chance to give these candidates a rousing thank you for being here and for running for office at that time. So thank you very much for holding your applause or comments during the proceeding. The first round is not a Q&A, but rather a lightning round. We're giving each candidate only 10 seconds to tell us what are their favorite things about Issaquah. We decided to do this instead of opening comments, just challenge them. So 10 seconds, we're going to go right down the table. We'll start with Wait, you know what? I want to introduce all of these folks. You can clap once now. We're going to start with Zach Hall, running for position 2. Landon Halverson, also running for position 2. Lindsay Walsh, running for position 4. Mike Palm was unable to be here, but he is challenging Lindsay in that race. Then we have Victoria Hunt, position 6. And Sam Sheehan, position 6. There we go. You had to get that out, right? A little bit. So now, 10 seconds each, your favorite things in Issaquah, starting with Zach, and I'm going to use first names all night. I hope you don't mind.
Just generally, or is there a prompt about types of favorite things?
Any favorite things.
Oh.
10 seconds, though.
Okay, yeah, favorite things in Issaquah, Village Theater, Lake Sammamish State Park. I grew up by Lake Sammamish State Park, so that's a favorite of mine. Timberlake Park over in that area as well, and that's 10 seconds.
My name is Landon Halverson. My favorite thing about Issaquah is the people. I love our community. I love the types of people who live here, civically engaged. I think that's what makes us so special.
Testing. Okay, fantastic. I would say the Issaquah treasures. We have a list of items, whether it's the Mist in the Mountains or Gilman Village, that are celebrated and make our community special.
We have majestic hiking and walking trails, and I truly enjoy exploring and learning about nature on the trails with my kids and with friends.
I like the sense of community that Salmon Days brings to the city and how close we are to both lakes and mountains.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I thought that was fun. So our first category is crime and safety. And according to the Issaquah Highlands Community Survey, 72% of the respondents said that crime and safety are their #1 concerns. So I have 2 sorts of questions in each category. The first person to answer the first question will be Landon, then Zach. The first question is, why do you think the Issaquah Highlands community ranks these 2 concerns so high, crime and safety? Landon.
Because they're paying attention. Violent crime is up year over year 74% in our city. We have a shoplifting crisis. People are paying attention in our city now more than ever because they have to. It's happening to them. It's happening in their homes. It's happening in their communities. It's happening in their businesses. So folks are worried because they have reason to be worried. I have multiple plans that I've suggested to ensure that public safety is taken care of in Issaquah. I support fully funding and backing our police officers, making sure that they have the resources they need to do their jobs effectively. I support getting into our schools, working with our kids, making sure that they have the resources to protect themselves and keep them safe and know what's going on in the world around them. We have a responsibility as adults and as community members to prioritize public safety, especially for those who can't protect themselves. And we have the means to do it. We just need to get it done.
Thank you. Zach, your turn.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is a very important issue that's been highlighted in the region nationwide too. Ensuring that in our community that our police and our fire and our human services and our emergency departments have the resources that they need to keep us safe and healthy is a paramount duty of council members. Some things that, I think also it's really important that we share with the community what we've been doing, so that way we can track and measure success here. We've been supporting our police and firefighters over the last 4 years. We've partnered with our retailers to prevent theft in their stores. We've invested in new ways, crisis response and homelessness outreach to connect with people in new ways and give them the services that they need to thrive. And we've also worked with neighborhoods to set up neighborhood watch programs in the communities that want to do that. So it's really important that we continue to invest in ways to address this issue and have deep conversations with the community and listen to them, to listen to the problems that are coming up, and then listening to our staff, our subject matter experts as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And the second question is just a little different. The answering order will be Sam, then Victoria, then Lindsay. As a council member, what can you do to decrease crime and increase safety? Can we start with Sam?
So I think that the first thing that we can do primarily is just, as just mentioned earlier, is make sure that our police force is well-staffed, well-funded, And beyond that, make sure that there is an outreach program that is mandatory. We can't have police officers not being a part of the community that they protect. When I volunteered down at Salmon Days, this past Salmon Days, the police were vital in organizing and clearing the street for the parade. And it was very nice to have extra hands available to be able to utilize that resource. And if elected, I would make sure that an outreach program would provide that feeling to any citizen of Issaquah. And beyond that, just recurring and mandatory training hours for self-defense, for weapon retention, for de-escalation, all sorts of things like that, because it makes the officer feel more comfortable policing.
Thank you. Victoria, you are next.
Thank you. As a council member, I think it's very important that we hear directly from the community and work directly with the community. We also, as a council, were hearing that we wanted to have more information that was provided to the community about how people could reduce the chance that they would experience property crime. So we have a crime analyst now. So things like those positions, the council can hear from the community that people want more specific information, and we can make sure that we hire the staff that are able to provide that. And that information, of course, is also very important to the council as well as to our police. So we can listen, we can provide the resources that are needed, and we can also, for example, go on ride-alongs. I recently did go on a ride-along with our police, and from that firsthand experience, really understand how they work closely with the business community. We can continue that two-way dialogue.
Excellent. Lindsay, you're next.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, as a council member, our two big levers are budget and legislation. So we're just like Congress in that way. So first priority is making sure that we're budgeting the appropriate number of staff. We had done that for many years, but we weren't seeing the hiring levels. So we actually worked with staff to understand, okay, what do we need to do? What levers do we need to pull to make sure that we have staff? And we're now basically completely full on our hiring because we implemented programs around retention bonuses and hiring bonuses. I agree, ride-alongs are a super important way to understand what the Issaquah Police Department needs, what they're experiencing. And then the other thing I would say is, honestly, take a few things off their plates. We've done a great job of hiring park rangers who can help patrol our park spaces, and behavioral health who can help co-respond during a crisis. And the police really, really appreciate both of those changes that we've made.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next category is the budget. The city now approves a new budget every 2 years, and the next time will be in 2024. The current budget, as approved based on my research, is about $174 million, and the city manages 350 employees. The answering order for the first question will be Lindsay, Victoria, then Sam, and the question is, what changes would you propose to city spending? Lindsay.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're right. We have 174 million total. Of that, about 63 million is our operations budget, which is just our staff. The rest is things like capital improvements and infrastructure that we build. As far as what to change, honestly, I think we're going to have to change some things. We're looking at situations where our revenue is decreasing. We're getting a little bit creative potentially in this upcoming mid-biennium budget, but looking at our next year's budget, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. I think we have clear and concise feedback from the community about what they value. Our community survey tells that easily. We also have a strategic plan that helps us prioritize. My priorities are going to be public safety, transportation, and housing. Some of those happen in a legislation manner rather than budgeting. And then I think the other thing that I want to work on is our parks and recreations and potentially using that as a way to reduce cost of living.
Thank you. Victoria, you're next.
Thank you. We have shifted in my time on council, which has been the last 6 years, to increasingly be more proactive in terms of funding maintenance, funding our sidewalk repairs, funding our street repairs, asphalt repair, all of those things. And so really the impact at the end of the day is that we are preventing that pothole from happening before you hit it with your car. And so I think I would change to continue to track where we need to be more proactive, where we need to be budgeting for more of that maintenance in a more forward-looking way. I think also similarly, we can look at opportunities for increasing our green space, protecting our green space through the budgeting process. But public safety and infrastructure are the largest parts of the budget, and those are not things that I would change, but I would continue to make sure that we support our community needs in those areas.
Thank you. Sam, you're next.
I think that, well, I mean, being not an incumbent, I don't really have a very good read on what the budget is right now, what directions money is going. But I do know that when times are lean and the squeeze comes from outside of Issaquah and groceries are getting higher in price and everything's getting higher in price, I think we would need to focus the budget on critical areas of infrastructure, as well as if all the problems of the Issaquah residents are solved and provided for by the city. I think it's important that Issaquah's leadership go back through and revisit, readdress, revise old policy items or outdated policy items that may be restricting the budget in other ways. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Zach and then go to Landon. And the question is, what changes would you propose in city revenues?
Yeah, this is really hard to answer in 1 minute, so I'll just put that caveat in there because we are also one year away of actually doing the next biennium's budget. So much will depend on the performance of revenues that are coming in and kind of analyzing that and saying what needs to change. And we have no idea what that's going to look like a year from then. That said, there is kind of an effort right now within the city and through community engagement to try to understand infrastructure and transportation initiatives and spending, and whether or not we need to be considering a 0.1% increase to the sales tax to support transportation projects here in town. We keep hearing from the community over and over that we really want to get around town quickly, safely, easily by car, bus, bike, and foot. And after having gone through the entire infrastructure process, knowing the different maintenance that we have to do, the safety projects that we have, and the legal requirements we have, there are really strapped for revenue in terms of actually delivering on those promises to the community. So yeah, we'll figure that out in a year.
Thank you. Landon, you're next.
Thank you for this question. As a high school accounting teacher, balancing our budget and ensuring that we have good, solid spending is probably one of my, if not the top priority that I have. I want to make it clear, I don't believe that this city has a revenue issue. $174 million for 40,000 residents in a 2-year period. Most communities in this country do far more with far less. So I'm not particularly interested in finding new revenue sources for the city. I think it has enough money as it is. Frankly, I would be looking to, if not cut revenue, find ways to ensure that it does not go up. I really do think, to kind of go back to last question, we really need to take a look at our budget. I have some serious concerns about how much we spend on capital projects. And granted, that's a problem in cities across America, but we spend some pretty exorbitantly high amounts on projects that should be completed for a lot less. And I'd love to go into detail on that at another point in this conversation.
Thank you, everyone. Our next category tonight is the environment. Issaquah is long known for its leadership in environmental stewardship. The first question is going to go to Sam, then Victoria. First question is, where do you think Issaquah's natural environment is the most vulnerable?
I would have to say that Issaquah's natural beauty and just infrastructure is in its streams. I would say that with how many businesses are attracted to Issaquah each year, that's more and more soil surveys you need to do, more and more wastewater runoff surveys you need to do. And with how delicate our river ecosystem is, it presents more and more of a problem. I think it's vital that although I do value the free enterprise of local businesses, we need to be on top of soil surveys and how chemicals used in industry affect those streams and affect the salmon, affect the kokanee, affect those fish, and affect the flora and fauna around the rivers that contribute to those.
Thank you. Victoria, same question.
I have had the honor of serving on the Salmon Recovery Council, representing our city for the last 6 years, the entire time I've been on council. And I do think that it is very important that we preserve our creekside habitats, but not just, it's not only the stream itself, it's really the habitat around it. And that as we develop, we make sure to keep those things, our beautiful natural areas and open spaces, that we take care of them and that we preserve them. So I think that with thoughtful planning, we can do that, but we do need to think ahead. We need to make sure that we're planning for taking care of our trees. One of the things that I am very proud to have been a part of is the creation of an urban forestry program. We know that there's increased forest fire risk, and so we're taking action to take better care of our trees to make sure that we are addressing the effects of climate change, and so all of those things take thoughtful planning.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Lindsay, then go to Zach, then to Landon. The question is, do our current regulations and investments sufficiently address the needs of our natural environment? Again, it's Lindsay, then Zach, then Landon. Lindsay.
So I think when we're talking about regulations, we did a great job of reevaluating what some of those regulations were with the Title 18. It's our land use code rewrite over the last few years. One of our top level goals there was, hey, we need to be using the best available science out there. Our code hadn't been updated in 20 years in many cases, and so it was behind the times. So at this point, yes, I think our regulations are pretty top-notch when it comes to what can be built, the protections for the environment and things around those areas. Our budgeting, we do have a fund set aside for land acquisition for areas such as the creekside areas. So when a property comes available, we can purchase it so that we can preserve those areas that are super important for the natural environment.
Timer. Thank you. Perfect. No, it's perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Zach.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we do. Like you said, we've long been a leader in the space of environmental stewardship and sustainability here in Issaquah. I think that it's important that we continue to do that. Over the last 4 years, we adopted a climate action plan, which is our blueprint for looking forward to a more resilient and sustainable future here in Issaquah. Like we said, we invested in an urban forest management program. We have new requirements around electric vehicle charging stations and also that incentive program that I was talking about earlier. All of this, in terms of our investments in the budget around environmental stewardship and sustainability, have really shown success. We were recently awarded the very first LEED Gold certification in the entire state for our efforts in environmental stewardship and sustainability, one of only 5 in the entire nation. So this is a huge priority in Issaquah. The council hears you, and we act on that. I think that there is really important that we continue to maintain our leadership in this space and implement on the goals that the community wants to see.
And finally, Landon.
Yes, thank you for this question. I'm glad that it's been mentioned that we are LEED certified. I think that that's a really important thing for our city, and it shows that there is a natural underlying commitment that is unique. As Zach mentioned, only 5 cities. And I really think that, well, to a certain extent, that's a reflection of government. It's a reflection of our people. It's a reflection of who we are as a city. We are the types of people that love our natural lands, that want to protect our natural lands, and that want to make sure future generations can enjoy the same natural lands we all got to. At least I think most of us do. I would love to see the state continue to take action on the environmental front. I think that it gets tough when municipalities are creating their own network of regulations. It becomes difficult to navigate, but I would love to see our state do more. I believe Sam mentioned hydrofluorocarbons and other things like that. So continuing to take an approach at all different levels to ensure that we're keeping this place clean and green.
Thank you, everyone. Question number 5, or the questions under our 5th category, is about the decision-making process. We're going to start with Landon, then Lindsay, then Zach. And the first question, I was inspired by the experience I had as a council member and how complicated the city council role is in any elected official. So the question to you, again, it's Landon, Lindsay, then Zach on the first one. How would you approach differences of opinions amongst council members? Starting with you, Landon.
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. It's no secret I'm not the incumbent. So naturally, I am going to be stepping, if I have the blessing of serving on this council, will be stepping into an environment with other individuals who don't share necessarily the same perspective on every issue. But that is what makes our community great. It's not a hindrance. It is something that makes us better. We have robust conversations here about how we want our city to go, what we want things to look like. And we are really committed, I think our people are committed to ensuring that every voice is heard. This is a community that really values ensuring that people are heard. And I certainly share those values too. I also recognize that if elected, I would be a freshman member. It's important that those who are new on the council take time to listen to those who have been on the council, learn from their experiences, understand what's worked and what hasn't, and even if you don't necessarily agree on every issue exactly, learn from their mistakes and their successes.
Lindsay, you're up.
Thank you. I think it's really important for the community to know that the city council doesn't make decisions by talking to each other outside of meetings. We make our decisions on the dais. We're not actually allowed to talk to a majority of council members, so we can't speak to four council members cannot talk about an issue that's going to come up unless it's in a public meeting. That's called the Open Public Meetings Act. So I would say we will work out our differences on the dais, because that's what we commit to you as a public, is that we're going to make our decisions where you can see it, where we can be accountable to the community. So that would be the first thing I would say, is you're going to see how we work through our issues. And the great thing with the Issaquah Council so far has been we're very respectful of each other. We're not a dramatic group that yells at each other or has any arguments on social media.
Okay, Zach.
Yeah, and the most important thing to say here is that it happens all the time. And it's really important to note that when we're sitting up there, we are members of the community just like you, but at that point we are also public policy makers. So it's important for us to listen to each other. It's important for us to really take into account community engagement on an issue. And then also it's important for us to respect process. So, as decision makers, when we find ourselves in a place where we are promoting positions or particular ideas that we have, we should be taking a step back and instead promoting what's called interests or values instead. What is the root at what you're trying to get at? And that's where you find kind of collaborative decision making really come to life there. And really getting to the root of the problem again is the most important thing. It's happened all the time on council, and we're always able to resolve things amicably and move in the right direction. And I've really enjoyed working with everyone on the council, and having come in as a new member 4 years ago, it was a seamless process.
Thank you. The second part of this question, we're going to start with Victoria and then go finish this category with Sam. So imagine this, prior to a vote, you expect to be the only dissenting member on a topic. What do you do? Victoria's first, then Sam.
Well, this does happen, and that's part of the process. I believe that it is very important that we all respect each other, and we do respect each other on this council, in my time on council. And a person may be on the 1 to 6 vote this time, and it may be the other way on the next vote. So one of the other important things is to explain very, very clearly and to listen. That two-way communication, I think, is extremely important. And then also, I think it's important, all of the pieces of the conversation where you can explain your position, and it may influence how future votes, how future votes go, or if there's a way that that council could maybe make something a pilot instead of a longer-term study. And then once the vote is taken, then you accept the will of the body and move on.
Sam, wrap it up.
So, I mean, I think that if it's you versus the rest of a council, I think that you have a duty, one, to yourself based on your principles, and two, to the people that voted for you, that you uphold the principles that you ran on. Because it is so important when everyone else is against you that you stand on your words and accept that if they don't like you for your reasons, they don't have to like you for your reasons, because you have to maintain your principles. If you compromise on your principles, they're not principles. So I think beyond all of that, when everyone is mad at you or disagreeing with you, it's just like any relationship or friendship. If you're in there in city council, it's you and them versus the problem. It's not you versus them. And that's so important to remember.
Thank you, everyone. Our next category I called Issaquah is Changing. Oh, or Future Issaquah, something like that. In the last 20 years, the population of Issaquah has more than doubled, and more change is on the way. This first question in this category goes to Sam, then Victoria. First question is, how would you balance current issues in Issaquah with future concerns? Sam first.
So I think the two biggest issues that affect Issaquah today, and that I hear the most about from people that live in Issaquah, is housing and traffic. So I don't know if any of you have heard of the new High Street project where they're going to be putting in a bunch of residential units. But I hear so many people, I get emails from people that say they aren't about high density housing. And I have to agree with them. I don't think it's a wise choice as long as 75% of Seattle's property is single family homes. I don't think we should have to burden that cost. And I think that traffic is an ongoing problem that has been tried to be solved. But if elected, I would love to get into the city council chambers and work with the city council to work towards a comprehensive solution to that.
Thank you. Victoria, you're next.
Issaquah is growing and changing. When I first moved to Issaquah, I was working in the Urban Design and Planning Department at University of Washington. I was in a group that was looking at the wildland-urban interface, and I really got involved. I applied to the Planning Policy Commission as a volunteer at that time because I wanted to use what I was learning, what I knew was being studied, to apply that and to make sure that we had policy in place, that we had those regulations in place that were forward-looking and that would preserve the things that make Issaquah special, knowing that change is coming, and change is, in fact, already happening. So I think that we need to continue to be diligent. We did a big land use update, as was mentioned, but now we need to continue to make sure that we are updating to best practices and make sure we're preserving those things that make Issaquah such a great place for everyone.
Thank you. The next question in this category will be answered first by Zach, then Lindsay, then Landon. Okay, the question is, the results of many council decisions do not materialize for many years. What does that mean to you? Zach, you are first.
Thank you. Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to answer that question by also touching a little bit on the last one, and that is that the foundation of any successful city, any successful decision in local government is balanced and sustainable growth, or balanced and sustainable change. So when we're making these kinds of changes, we're making policy decisions that may not actually be implemented for many years. We have to be mindful of how these decisions will be implemented in the future and what the landscape of the future is going to look like. I hear it time and time again, from our residents when we're talking with you, that growth should come with real community benefit. Things like amenities and affordable housing and recreation and retail and infrastructure. So it's important that when we're making the decisions that impact the future of Issaquah, that we're also ensuring that we'll be setting ourselves up for success in all those different ways.
Thank you. Lindsay, you're next.
Yeah. So this is a part of every decision. And so as a council and every city in the area is required to do a comprehensive plan. That means we're not looking at what's happening today. We're looking at what our growth projections are, what our community needs are going to be 20 years in the future. So we're going through that process right now. And that gives us the larger scale view so that then when we're going back and making decisions about a certain particular area or a piece of legislation, we're doing so with that comprehensive view in mind. So that would be the first thing I would say. And then the other thing is sometimes things don't go right and you make a change to legislation, you don't see the impact of it, and so you change it again. And that's something that we're able to do because we continuously look back. We don't just check something off, mark it as done, and move on. We continuously look back.
Thank you, Landon. You're next.
One thing I think our local governments are missing, not just Issaquah, is accountability. There is no accountability when a project goes long. Who gets fired? What happens to the folks who started the project? There typically isn't an answer. And I think that is a really big part of the problem. There are no consequences for contractors, for legislators, for anybody who goes over time, over budget. It's all just okay. We're expected to pay for it. We have a bureaucratic web here in Issaquah, complete with multiple layers of city staff, outside consultants that we spend quite a pretty penny on to bring in, and that take a lot of our time. I know this because we encounter it on the Economic Vitality Commission all the time. So I think that when we look forward to addressing Issaquah's problems, we need to make sure that there's accountability at all levels of our government and ensuring that we're following through on the things that we say we're going to do, because right now we're not always doing that.
Thank you. Our next category is human services. The budget expenditures for human services in Issaquah are scheduled to be over $1.8 million in both 2023 and 2024. That's double the expenditures as they were in 2022. The first part of this question is going to be answered by Landon first, then Zach. And that question is, where do you want to see the City of Issaquah human services dollars be spent? Landon is first.
That's a great question. I was sign waving here in the Highlands earlier today, and there was a homeless man who came up to me and he asked me, he said, are you Landon? What are you going to do about our homeless population? And I've not ever been asked that in that type of setting before, and it kind of caught me off guard, but I feel really blessed to have been asked that, because it forced me to think about, well, what exactly can we do for you in your unique situation? I think that the most important thing that we're doing is connecting people, serving as liaisons to private organizations. We have so many groups, so many folks in our area who are committed to helping people get to a better place. And I believe that we as a city can be an outstanding liaison to those programs. Also continuing to provide meals like we do in Old Town, and finding ways ultimately to get people back on their feet. People in this community and in our state deserve to live a life off the streets, and we can help them achieve that independence.
Thank you. Zach is next.
Thank you. Yeah, there are three ways that we can be continuing to invest in human service landscape here in Issaquah. The first is the behavioral health response. This was something we tried out a few years ago, and we've had a lot of success in doing that. When police or firefighters go out to a scene and mark something as a need for a follow-up for behavioral health services, we have a team of behavioral health professionals in our human services team who go out and connect with those people to get them connected with the services that they need. And one thing that we're headed toward is trying to have a co-response model where these behavioral health workers can go out with police and with fire to engage with people in the ways that they need them right away. Also, homelessness outreach, as it was touched on, we have a very successful program of engaging with people and trying to understand what their needs are and building relationships with them. So that's one thing. We also have an emergency temporary housing pilot program to give these people a place to stay while we get them connected to jobs and temporary housing and the services that they need. And then in my last 5 seconds, I'll say we have a human services strategic plan that emphasizes the gaps in the need where we need to continue investment.
Thank you. The next question, we will start with Lindsay, then go to Victoria, then Sam. Next question in Human Services is, what other means besides funding does the city have in providing for enhancing human services? Again, we start with Lindsay.
So I just want to take a moment to reflect back on that $1.8 million. It sounds big, and it sounds like we've doubled our spending there in a way that maybe wasn't effective or is too fast. But I'd like to recognize where that revenue comes from. The county adopted a 0.1% sales tax, and we had just a few days as a city to choose to preempt that and keep that money in-house or give it to the county. And we were one of only a few cities in the county that did that. So a lot of that revenue is coming from something people were going to be paying, and it was going to go to the county anyway, but we chose to keep it in the city because we felt like we could serve the community in the best way with that. So I just want to address that and make sure that we're recognizing that wasn't just us taking out of a general fund and doubling our spend willy-nilly.
Thank you. Victoria, you're next.
There are many partnerships that the city currently works in that are where we are working in partnership, but ultimately that other group is providing those services. Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank. Arch is a group that provides housing, but across the whole region. So that's those sorts of programs we can participate in, and it can make a real difference for people. We also have a partnership with Motel 6, where we have rooms in Motel 6 at the end of the spectrum where people really need a place to stay for a short temporary stay, but a lot of services, you need to jump through some hoops, and oftentimes you need an address. And so this program has actually resulted in people being able to get back on their feet. So it's made all the difference to individuals in our community. So I think developing those partnerships is really important, and one way that we can continue to improve our reach without necessarily expanding our funding.
Thank you. Sam, you're the last one.
The only thing I can recommend is volunteering. It's you. There's a homeless shelter down called Hans Jensen. It's right next to the lumber mill. And me and my father, we take cords of wood down there because they have a fire. They have a big old fire pit. And they keep that thing running day and night. They'll take firewood from anywhere. And I mean, we pick fruit, extra fruit, we take it right to the Issaquah Food Bank. I mean, if you know anyone who has an orchard or a garden or too much firewood or a tree that needs chopping down, it's so easy to just create a program where it's like, hey, if you want to volunteer, we'll get you a t-shirt. Just a little recognition for a volunteer goes a long way because they're already out there doing the work. All they need is a little gratitude, say, hey, we see you. We appreciate what you're doing for the homeless community here. I mean, it's so easy.
Thank you. And guess what? Our candidates have done such a good job that we have a bonus question for you, so I don't have a header up here. And I also made up the random order while I was trying to pay attention. So we'll do the best we can here. But the bonus question is in economic development. And randomly, I wrote down that we're going to do Lindsay, then Landon, then Victoria. I'm going to jump around this time just for kicks, because it's bonus. Yeah, Lindsay, Landon, and Victoria. The first question under economic development, I want to set the stage that the city of Issaquah spends over $600,000 every year on economic development, and has 3 dedicated staff members, and manages business-related fees and taxes. So starting with Lindsay, What is the city of Issaquah's influence on economic development?
So as one of those small businesses who pays tax to the city, I recognize that there is a cost to being a part of a community. You know, we as a business and individuals get a lot of services from being in a community: fire, police, roads, all of those things. So I think it is important, and most businesses recognize that their contribution back into that system is really important. I've seen, particularly over the pandemic years, our economic development team talk to every single business, every single retail business in the city, ask them about what their needs were, what was something that we could do for them. So we've connected a lot of people with individual, services and education, things like that. We also help new businesses that want to come into town try and find a location. And so there's a lot of things that funding goes into helping businesses.
Thank you. Landon, you're next.
Thank you for this question. As an Economic Vitality Commissioner, I work very closely with our 3 dedicated staff members on a monthly basis. Granted, now it's more like a weekly basis as we do our economic development planning. But I'm very passionate about this, and I've seen firsthand as an individual who is often the one going to these businesses, talking with folks about the issues that they're facing, that A, there are issues that are unaddressed in our community, and B, we as a city absolutely can have huge influence from anti-shoplifting ordinances that the city can pass like it did 2 years ago, to tax preparation and tax help, and even working with our equity board to ensure that the language needs of all of our business owners, are being met, and that all can happen at the city level. So absolutely, I strongly feel as an Economic Vitality Commissioner that we have the ability to influence our economic development here in the city at the city level.
Thank you. Victoria, you're the last one on this question.
When I first moved to Issaquah, I remember going down Front Street and just being charmed by the streetscape and the businesses, and I still feel that way every time I'm going out to a restaurant on Front Street in downtown Issaquah. I think our small businesses are super important, and the City Council and the city has a role to play in supporting them. I was council president in 2020 and 2021, where there was a lot of economic hardship, and we worked closely with the business community, with the Chamber of Commerce. We have a group, Visit Issaquah, as well, that is promoting tourism and also our businesses, and we made sure that we were hearing the concerns from the community and doing what we could. So for example, at that time, we had the streetery where businesses could use the street outside spaces and the city coordinated on that. We set up a Issaquah Loyal program, got the word out, and that program continues now with Shop Like a Sasquatch. So we can keep up that good work.
Thank you. And I have another variation on this theme for Zach, then Sam. This question is, what can you do as a council member to support our business community and foster future opportunities? Zach, then Sam.
Oh, there are a ton, but I'll just touch on what was briefly mentioned earlier. We're currently in the development of an economic development action plan, which is going to kind of map out economic development efforts in the future. And I think it's really important when that comes to council, I'm going to be looking for goals and objectives that really expand access to economic opportunity in town and lift up our local businesses. And to me, that means, from what I've heard from businesses, they want quicker, more efficient permitting. They want access to more technical assistance and access to more resources. And also it means capitalizing on our unique environment here in Issaquah. We have one of only 13 creative districts in the entire state here in Issaquah. Also, our proximity to Lake Sammamish and the Issaquah Alps means that outdoor tourism and outdoor recreation are huge here in Issaquah. So by investing in these specific sectors, we can drive economic opportunity to business all over town.
I think that one of the best ways we can invigorate Issaquah's business landscape is to, as was previously mentioned, reduce permitting times and reduce building codes and reduce the frivolous nature of how long it takes to get something through the bureaucracy of permitting. And as a local business owner, I'm still waiting on a couple permits, which aren't necessarily through the city, but it is a frivolous process that I have grown to know extremely well. So I can say that just improving that overall would bring a lot of businesses to Issaquah.
Thank you. And thank you all for doing such a good job with your timing that we got to do a bonus question. Now we'll move into the closing comments portion of the program, where each candidate has only 1 minute to say whatever they want. They can tell you a little bit more about themselves. They can clear up something that they said earlier, whatever they want. 1 minute, and I will prompt you as we go down, but the order will be, again, just a random order: Victoria, Sam, Zach, Landon, and then Lindsay. So Victoria, you're first. 1 minute, please.
Thank you. I have had the honor of serving you for 6 years, and thank you all so much for participating in this process tonight, coming out. It was a beautiful fall evening, and thank you for participating. It really helps me do a better job on council when I hear directly from you. So I hope to keep this communication going beyond this meeting. Please do reach out, and please keep those conversations happening. I have also been talking in the neighborhoods, and I have learned a lot through those conversations. I am a team player. I am endorsed by Issaquah Mayor Mary Lou Pauley, as well as our Eastside Firefighters, Sierra Club, Washington Conservation Action, and a number of other groups. It's really important on council that we work together, because no one council member can get anything done. And I would truly be honored to earn your vote to continue to serve you.
Thank you. Next is Sam, and then we'll go to Zach.
I would just like to say that it's been a pleasure coming out here and talking to all of you, whether you're listening or watching. And I'd like to thank Nina for moderating all this, and Lindsay for setting it up, and for the exceptional competition out here. I just hope to be able to work on a team that has some of these people on it potentially one day. So for all of you who sat through all this, thank you for enduring a novice public speaker such as myself. That's it.
Thank you. We're going to Zach and then Landon.
Yeah, thank you. I am incredibly proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last 4 years. We responded to the COVID-19 crisis. We prioritized investments in public safety. We secured the development of over 150 units of affordable rental housing in our urban core. We made critical investments in our aging infrastructure, and we expanded our human services team to respond to the behavioral health needs of our residents in crisis. And like I said earlier, we became the first city to get LEED Gold certification in the entire state. We did all this and we did so much more, and there's still so much more work to do. I'm running for re-election to build on this progress and to turn our shared vision of a more balanced and sustainable and affordable Issaquah into a reality. It's such a privilege to serve my hometown in this way. I love the work, and I would be honored to earn your vote and confidence once again. Thanks very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Landon, and then finally Lindsay. Landon?
Thank you, Nina, for hosting this. This has been great. As you guys have learned, my name is Landon Halverson, and I'm running here in Issaquah to get traffic moving, to support our small businesses, and to keep our community safe. As a high school teacher who commutes every day, I understand the importance of getting traffic moving, especially when it comes to Front Street, and that's why I support updating our traffic signals citywide. As an economic vitality commissioner, I work very closely with our businesses, and I recognize that we still have work to do when it comes to making sure they are fully supported and recovered from the pandemic. Finally, making sure that our police are fully supported and ensuring that we are fully funding every aspect of the department, and that when it comes time to create our next biannual budget, that the police department is one of the first departments we go to in search of questions about what is it that you need to keep us safe. I love this community. I love the people who make this community what it is. I would be honored to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Lindsay.
Thank you, and thank everyone for coming out. Anybody who's watching, man, I'm sure it's not 40,000 people in the city of Issaquah that are doing this, so I appreciate the commitment and the time that it takes. My name is Lindsay Walsh. I've served on the Issaquah City Council since 2019, including the last 2 years as council president. You'll notice there are an odd number of people up here. I'm not running against any of these people. My opponent didn't show up and hasn't written a ballot statement. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows these are not my opponents, so that you can make a decision. It's been an honor to serve on the city council. It's a great way to understand what the long-term needs and the short-term needs are of the community. And so I appreciate that everybody is engaged. I will say, please stay engaged, write to your city council. We want to hear from you.
Excellent, thank you. And now it's just the time to wrap it all up. I want to list off a couple thanks, primarily to Highlands Council, who hosts us here at Issaquah Highlands lovely Blakely Hall, and the Executive Director, Lindsay Walsh, for putting this, Lindsay Walsh, got too many Lindsays in the room, Lindsay Pinkston, for putting this together. And thank the City of Issaquah for coming out again to record this, so those who couldn't make it tonight can watch it on the City of Issaquah YouTube channel. But most of all, I want to thank the candidates, and you're going to have an opportunity to applause, but I want you to take just a moment to think about what it takes just to run for office. These folks are going to, how many do we have up here? Anyway, there are 3 positions. 3 of the people in this year's election are going to serve on city council, but just to run for office takes a huge commitment, and I want to give my heartfelt thanks to all of you, and you can all join me in that. Thank you.